said something about missing, but I can't remember if it was this meeting or a different meeting.
This trailer and truck was there today, but I'm not like, whatever.
Sound like a mouse scratching.
Any comments, questions, or concerns with the minutes? If not, then I will make a motion to adopt the June 12th minutes as written.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the June 12th minutes as written. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Move on to review of liaison reports. We'll start with the zoning administrator report. What's the formula for the marijuana extension? Just trying to figure out how time is being spent and resources used.
Yeah, how much, I guess it's how much money needs to come from marijuana that is owed to things like bill, auto insurance, building insurance, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on for a long time.
Have you gotten the formula or?
Completed.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the board of trustees, I think they already voted on all that stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Dan?
We looked at it, I don't believe we voted on it.
You did already, you already did a budget, right?
Yep.
So,
I don't remember it coming up as a specific item, so if it got changed and put into the budget, it got approved in the budget.
okay, well, I think that's what happened, but I'm not sure. I would, Bruce had taken it over from me, right, towards the very end of this. I do have another court date on Monday.
Okay. For
Brown Road.
the 4795 Brown Road, or?
I think that's it, I don't know, I was just.
So you got 3 for county court hearings, Saginaw Road, and Brown Road.
Yep, Saginaw Road is, pretty much done. The one on Saginaw, the other, still waiting for the court one. The other Saginaw Road was informed today, about 2 hours ago, that the one on Brown Road, meeting is on Monday at 9:30 at the court.
Okay.
I'm not sure how the other one on
most, if not all of the,
Should be all the trailers but one, he said.
yeah.
That's one that he's gonna use
Okay.
to finish. But they might, he said they might sell the property, they don't know exactly know what they're gonna do, it might get split up. Because there's a family member or a couple family members that want some of that property, so
Okay.
that's all I really know. But I do have this phone number, so I can call.
Good.
I have a question.
Yep.
You're just gonna leave the cameras set there then, even though they've been there for now already 2 years, so we keep them there?
No, the cameras are
Oh,
gone.
there's one there.
There's one, he can have two. He's allowed to have two.
I thought you had to have a residence there, cabin.
No. You don't? Don't have to have a residence.
And that would make sense for people that pull their trailer to a piece of property and camp out there all summer. They wouldn't have to be residents for that.
Right.
Yeah, now, summer, all year.
Well, yeah.
I thought we had a limitation of 6 months.
180 days without a residence, 120 days with a residence. And then you gotta be able to prove it in a court of law if they're actually living there. So, with me talking, with Seth and with Michael Vila, two of our attorneys, they said it's almost impossible. Because how do you know if they left for a day? Or how do you know if they left for a week? Or how do you know they're actually staying there? Maybe they're staying there just the weekend. Maybe somebody, it's very hard. So, I mean, if you know a different way to prove it, I'd be more than happy to, that.
Basically, they have to have kids and sending them to school.
Right, and that's what,
From that part.
that's what the lawyer said. Actually, that's what Catherine said, because this goes back a long time ago, when I was dealing with Catherine, and she said that they got kids that go to school, their school bus stop there, like that thing, just like, no, there isn't any of that stuff.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the zoning administrator report? If not, then we'll move on to the marijuana coordinator report.
She's not here today, but I can tell you she wrote,
Yep, I got those, I think it's up with those, everybody. Little sheet. Coordinator report additional notes, unless you got more than what.
I don't know what her report is. Does it say anything on there about 2 citations?
It says, violation, priorities.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say how many, it just says that there was notice sent out.
Yeah, there's two violation notices that she sent out.
And then, but it's not, is it associated with the two that we're reviewing today?
I don't know, I will go get them, because I'm the one who made them up for. Oh,
Here's one on business.
okay. I don't know what you got on your list, but, 3896 Griffith Creek Express 2 Realty LLC.
Express two is one that's on the agenda tonight to review.
Okay, and then there's another one, 3862 Crooked Creek. This one is Express 1.
Yeah, that one's not on the list tonight.
Okay.
What was that, so a formal violation was sent to,
Formal violation for both of them, yeah. Yeah, and they were sent by registered mail.
oh, certified mail?
Yeah, certified.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wasn't, I will get to that later. Any other questions on the marijuana coordinator report?
Both of them, so
That's what I was gonna say, but we'll get to that when we get to the,
whatever.
yep.
Excavations renewal. He had asked for a 3-year extension, but they didn't act on that. I mean, to make it 5 years instead of 3. They only acted on renewing his 3-year.
Didn't we already renew three for this?
Yeah, you have renewed it, but it has to be approved by the board of trustees.
He put it on our agenda saying it had to be, I didn't know, so.
It was just, well, hold on a minute. So we approved special land use permit renewal.
Yes.
So what did the board of trustees need to approve then?
We approved the special use language.
Yeah, they have to approve that.
Why?
Don't know, it says it in the red book,
Since when?
since the creating of the red book.
For mining activities or for all special land use?
All special land uses.
Well,
then we need
to start one,
Then we need to.
Marijuana was supposed to go through them too, because they gotta sign off on marijuana.
Well,
He
then we
didn't
better
say
get,
all that night, so I didn't know all that.
then we better get clarity on that, because if that's the case, then then what do we do? Like, all we're doing is making recommendations. The authority is even according to the new zoning ordinance, the authority for special land use permit renewals and applications, that power rests with us to make those approvals based on the zoning ordinance.
Okay, I'll just check it out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll need to get clarity on that then, because if that's the case, then there's a bunch of special land use permits that have never been done right, if that's the case. Which then means there's a bunch of, we'll have to figure that out, we'll have to double check that, because I have a feeling there might be more to that than just, it's gotta go through them. Because I know zoning ordinance amendments and zoning ordinance changing of zoning has to be approved by them. But, like, that would be a massive change if, like, any sort of site plan involved approval has to be approved by them. Because any of these, like, commercial properties that are used by right, that are permitted, that require a site plan, would then theoretically have to be.
So why do they have on the application the date that the board of trustees approved it?
Word on what application?
On your SLU?
There's one for, which application are you talking about specifically?
Special land use.
I've got it in here, I think, hold on.
You got on the left side, you got the planning commission approval, and on the right side, at the bottom, you got the board of trustees.
So then how many special use permits have ever gone to,
I don't know, I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you that there have been a couple. That I've seen them, because I've been going through paperwork for a FOIA for about the last 3 or 4 days now.
well, then we need to get clarity on that, because like I said, I know even in the new zoning ordinances that we're the ones approving it.
Right. So, you're talking about on the front page, the bottom right corner, says about town board.
Yep.
You'll see it there, there's a copy of it.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, I'm looking at one right now. Well, not the one for Eric, but I'm looking at a special land use permit. Alright, well,
If there's no, in somewhere as far as the board, voting to give the planning commission the authority to approve these, I mean,
Could be.
Could go that way.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen too, it would have to be probably in one of the zonings, or no,
Resolution or something.
it's gotta be, yeah, it would have to be in somewhere if that's the case, that.
yeah, I mean, this was taken, so the Article 2, so I'm looking at the new ordinance, but a lot of this was taken out of the old ordinance. it does say, review and take action on request for site plan approval in compliance with Article 9 of the Nebraska Township zoning ordinance. So, I mean, the only other thing I can think of is it's like that weird case of like the private road, because it's nestled in the general policing ordinance, but the planning commission has to give recommendation of approval. Because it says on that application, it does say recommendation / decision date, which the decision date is that we took action that was finalized, where recommendation would be, like, that's where I think maybe that's what the confusion is. Well, we'll never get clear.
Maybe the forms need to be updated, who knows?
And this
Better get
come to light, do you looking through FOIA's then, because I just realized that was from March, from us. Why did it take so long for the board to bring it up?
I have no idea. That's
You didn't give it to him because you found it then?
No,
I think you were doing a FOIA on these, that's what you said.
I'm doing it for you, yeah.
So you didn't present it to him because he had, the board had to deal with that?
No, I presented it to him a while back. I don't know exactly the date.
Okay.
I mean, I can look it up if you
I
want.
was just curious that you maybe look at the date, but talking about it, I knew it wasn't recently, but it was
Right.
almost 4 months ago.
Right. It's been a while.
All right, you ready to continue or what?
Okay, yeah.
They also approved the rezoning of the property for, Cooper excavating,
Okay.
Sheridan Road and Saginaw Road. We still need members badly for the zoning board of appeals in order to review and the ambulance record. If you know anybody, make sure they sign up.
Is it something that we all just use?
Be on more than one, but there are certain ones you can't be on that, if you're on that.
Yeah,
I
all
don't
of
think
it.
it's, I don't think we have to see it. We already have a rep on the CPA.
Right.
Which one was the latest?
I believe it's four, is the rep out.
Yeah, that's right, Corbin's, yes.
But there's also a question about that, according to the Red Book. Like, you can't, really should be serving on another board that would have to potentially take action, where you have to act twice, yeah.
That can come up as a problem, all 9 or 9. They're accepting bids for a person to clean the hall, they have a bid sheet, you can come here and get the sheet, if you're interested. And tire collection is August 16th, don't forget that.
Are we responsible for staffing that, or is somebody at the school?
It has not been said.
Okay.
It's not.
Because if I recall correctly, this wasn't an us choice this time, this was the school saying that he will do this.
It wasn't planned.
Okay,
Or it was, I didn't catch it, it wasn't maybe part of the motion or anything like that. Also, the board approved the weed ordinance. I don't remember the wording, it was, the way it was worded, I don't remember, but the mowing of, for to enforce the weed ordinance, yeah, not the weed ordinance, it was an overruled ordinance.
oh,
So they have a person now mowing, two guard.
this isn't the, where they have to make the posting,
No,
okay.
if they do, if they mow it, and the person doesn't pay,
Right, but this is just the person to do it, not
Right.
the posting that you have to do at the beginning of the year.
right, now there you go.
Okay.
Bob Ford's funeral is tomorrow at 12 p.m. Well, the funeral will be at 2 p.m., but the show starts at 12 p.m. It's, I didn't catch the name, you expected it right now, it's Schwartz Street.
No, it's
Schwartz
Schwartz,
funeral. I don't know
Schwartz
where
Funeral
it's at.
Home on Phillip Road.
That's, I got the name, not the town, I seen Schwartz, Infinite Creek, on Hill Road. There you go. Anything else, if there's any questions, fire away. That's not else.
Anybody else?
Yep. Come up with, are you gonna do this, you have some date?
Yeah, I was gonna cover that at the, when we do the open, around proceedings at public hearings. Yep. Yep, I'll throw it all underneath that, thank you. pointed out there in the zoning administrator, report, she's been working on sending out violations, which sounds like actual written violations were sent out, so it's called Troy. One impacting, the Express 2N that we're covering on agenda item 8, 9, and 11. So we have, some units to schedule. Look at the calendar here. Let's see. Our next meeting would be August 12th. These are all, looks like straight renewals, the only difference being the last one, which is just a name, a doing business as name change from Jelly Bean Enterprises to Wildfire Partners.
It should be August 14th.
Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing, yeah, the 14th. Sorry, I don't know why I looked at it. Yes, it's the 14th. You are correct, thank you. I guess I just looked this up. Oh, T, that's the day, yeah. Alright, so I will make the motion to set the public hearings for efflorescence medical and adult use class C grows, Bud Bundy LLC medical class A grower, and Wildfire Partners medical class A grower and adult use class C grower special land use permit renewals for the August 14th meeting that begins at 7 p.m. Do I have a second? Sam seconds. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, so those will be on the 14th. Okay, and then with that, I'll move on to the public. So at 7:24, we will open the public hearing for 664 Baxter LLC Medical Adult Use Provisioning Center Special Land Use Permit Renewal. Any members of the public receive notice on this renewal that wish to speak at this time? If not, then at 7:24, we will close the public hearing for Baxter, or for 664 Baxter LLC Medical and Adult Use Provisioning Center. And we'll open at 7:24, we will open the public hearing for Express 2N. There, Express 2N, medical class B and adult use class B grower special land use permit renewals. Any members of the public received notice of this renewal that wishes to speak at this time? If not, then at 7:25 p.m. we will close the public hearing for Express 2N, medical class B and adult use class B grower renewal. We got the last one.
Yeah.
The last one, yeah. All right. So we'll move on to planning commission discussion and action on 664 Baxter LLC medical and adult use provisioning center special land use permit renewals.
spreadsheet, it's all one name, one address.
Right. But Samir, or Michael Shanko is
He
the
is,
sole owner of the company. I mean, in that case, with that address just being of question, that might, I don't think it impacts, unless I'm wrong, I don't think it impacts the rest of the application, we just gotta make sure that that gets.
administratively wise, yeah, right.
Right. Whether it should be on the site, whether it should be on the permit application,
Or removed from this.
yeah, or removed from the, renewal application. Anything else?
That's all that's in there.
Anything else? Alright, if not, then I'll make the motion to conditionally approve renewal of 664 Baxter LLC, medical and adult use provision center, special land use permit renewal with clarification on name of property owner on the permit application and renewal application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to conditionally approve 664 Vassar LLC, medical and adult use provisioning center special land use permit renewal, with clarity on the name of the property owner. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Ben,
Yes.
Bob, Monica, yes, Devin,
Yes.
or, absent, Sam,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes. Motion passes. So, I'll try to get a hold of Rachel and let her know that she just needs to get clarity on that. And then we'll move on to planning commission discussion and action on express to end special land use permit renewal for class B, medical and class B adult use. Now, I do recall that previously we had a violation filed previously for them not mowing their grass. You said you just sent them by certified mail, so when did you send that?
Tuesday.
Tuesday? So, when did I get that from? Rachel, I think I got that last week. Yeah, I think I got her email on this last week. How many days did they have to address the issues?
7.
7 days?
So that's 7 days from receiving it, or 7 days of,
Be 7 days from,
7 days from when the
certified mail.
yeah.
that's what I'm saying, when they get the mail, 'cause it could be 3 or 4 days in the mail, I don't care anymore. You don't know.
Well, the
2 days.
certification is that the post office shows that it was delivered to, right?
Yes, and it has to be signed for by,
Has to be signed by us.
Did that come back?
That's not the back.
That's all I was getting at, is I know it's gotta be signed, and did you get it back?
Didn't get it back yet, she said.
I mean,
and they'll try 2 or 3 times before they will return it.
Yes.
so, based on the fact that this is the second time they've been in violation of the growth ordinance, and it always, seems to get brought up right at renewal time, I guess at this point, where I'm at is we table this until we get confirmation that they are back in line with the ordinance, and then, I don't know how I want to address it going forward. This is twice that this has happened.
I've noticed it
think that's,
Second, you go to the next page, they actually make it look like they changed their, because this is only if it's different, remember?
right,
So now they've got their address in there again, and they say, see the site plan, and see the attached for operations plan, but not applicable for other things, so. That's probably all clerical, I don't know what the ownership is.
right.
Okay, the ownership is on the third page.
It is, but it's
The
just.
problem is you shouldn't have pulled it in there if it's not different, and we have nothing to compare it to.
If you look on the front page, they list Express 2 Relay
Victoria.
in West Bloomfield, and then just put Crooked Creek again as for Express 2. So that needs to definitely be corrected.
And if the ownership is changed, they're supposed to come in, right? So if it's all identical, then it's irrelevant. It's just
But they did come in for the ownership change previously. Or is that a different one?
Again,
They're all,
Yeah, that's not one.
Express 1.
but, again, my question would be, theoretically, they don't fill it out here unless it's changed again. If they've already been approved, it should say none.
Well,
There's
I
no
mean,
change.
Michael around 664 had that he had 100%
Yeah.
ownership in that, so.
And because it was one, I did question.
Yeah.
This is percentages with several names,
Right.
and I have no way of knowing if those are the same things.
So clarity on if there's been ownership change.
It's just, yeah, and
So clarity
I'm
on
assuming you just typed in there, didn't need to,
if ownership change.
but we don't know that.
Well, but we also need to know who,
Right.
because there's a certain percent, I think the ordinance defines if you're a certain percentage owner, you basically don't need to be listed, I think. Or at least and even for, I think, your licensing, right, you don't need to be listed on like the commercial law license or whatever, so I don't know if that's why they're doing that, but, I mean, also, it's nice to know that they actually do have ownership and all four of those people are signed.
Right.
But make sure that no amount of ownership is changed more than I think it's 10%. Yeah.
Is it possible in the future that, with these, that she attaches the previous one, so that you have something to go back to refer to?
Yeah, it might be just the envelope of the previous documentation, it might not be a copy, we might just have it available to look through.
Yes.
I mean, they don't always show up when they use as tonight. If they were here, they could simply have said, no, nothing changed. Yeah, just take the version of the
Which is maybe proving if this is correct.
Right.
Remember that far back, all these names were the same, and the percentages were the same.
Anything else happen? Sorry.
If they receive a summons, shouldn't they have to come in before the board?
There is no requirement to arrive, no. I mean, it definitely helps your case,
Yeah.
but it's not a requirement of the renewal or even, I think, of the special land use permit application itself. Like, if you're doing a new permit, there's no requirement for you to be here. It's just that, I mean, we're supposed to be basing it off of documentation. All right, so clarity on ownership percentage. Any other things besides that and tabling it for the violation? Okay, so that, I don't think we normally we do a motion to table, I think it's just, general consensus to table, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll table this, have Rachel give confirmation that they are back in good standing with the zoning ordinance. I mean, by the time we would be able to see this again, they should have voted, and if it looks like they're not having voted again, like, and they're very clearly to go back in violation, we should notice that. But I guess it also depends on when they get the certified mail. this was, Adam from the, Adam Long from the facility out on Oak Road, and, a couple other growers had come in about, the last meeting and talked about their public comment, because it wasn't on the agenda. Basically, they want to, one, first and foremost, they want to change the ordinance, with regards to, where operations have to occur, and, odor mitigation methods. They sent the email to the supervisor, which originally went to the board of trustees, correct, Ben?
I'm sorry, say that again?
This request originally went before the board of
Yes.
trustees, and then it was bounced back to us.
Yep, and then they reviewed the one.
Yep. So they gave us some documentation on this, information. Rachel reached out to the, attorney. So there's a paper, starts with good morning, thanks for the follow-up email. The previous one slipped out of my inbox. I can confirm that this is an email to her back from the attorney, even though it's not official. It's basically just out of the email, so I just copied the body of the email. But it is from our attorney.
It says so on the back.
Yeah.
I took it as that.
Yep. So it does say thanks for the follow-up. This is an interesting request. It takes some careful thought to plan out properly, but there are several questions that need to be answered first. Has the township been able to communicate with other municipalities that have allowed outdoor grows? Generally heard negative things about them. I would like the township, like to make sure the township is really sure about trying this before we move forward. The marijuana statutes don't exactly allow for this sort of thing. Essentially, what we would need to do is authorize one outdoor grow and accept applications and grant the license for it. I assume we already have a specific site operator in mind. It can create some problems where we basically give this one person a license without allowing the general public to try for it. Or some test site. What sort of test site agreement is the township looking for? I'm imagining something like a license is valid for 1 year. The township will totally revoke, prohibit outdoor grows after 1 year. If it doesn't play out, we can try to draft an agreement, but if we decide to revoke after 1 year, the test site owner might not want to stop and they challenge us on it, even despite the agreement. If he's making money, and they may be willing to sue about it. In short, I think this could be possible, but would be risky, at least in my opinion. The risk far outweighs the potential rewards as far as the township is concerned, but of course the property owner would like us to try it, I'm sure. So, that's basically the feedback from the attorney. I have my own concerns about it.
Just before you do
Yeah.
that, did you get anything from Mr. Long?
I did not receive anything from Rachel or Mr. Long.
Okay.
Other than the documentation that was presented. So I did see in the email originally presented to the supervisor that Mr. Long mentions Tedford Township ordinance that has survived 5 years without litigation. I then went and looked at Tedford Township ordinance. Their ordinance was, unless I'm looking at the wrong Tedford Township, which I don't believe so. I believe he is talking about Tedford Township, which is just outside of Clio. I looked up their ordinance. Their ordinance was signed into effect in February of 2024. And that ordinance clearly states that it must be indoor grows, indoor operations, just like in our ordinance. I have the ordinance pulled up if anybody would like to look for themselves. Obviously, it's on my phone, so it's a little bit hard to read, but it was February 15th of 2024 that their marijuana ordinance was put into place. And then I looked through the minutes leading up to when this was signed. There was a company called Grams that was out there that was trying to do an outdoor grow, and it was tabled for several months, up up till this meeting when this ordinance looked like it became effective in law. So unless he's talking about different Tedford Township, as far as I can tell, like right off the bat, there's no way it's been tested for 5 years when it was just put into place last year. And it specifically calls out indoor operations.
I just did a Google search quickly, and it's the only one that shows up in Michigan, so that's valid.
Right. Yeah, that's where, that was the first kind of red flag for me was like, okay, well, this is easy enough to look up. Tedford Township, looked it up. Does not match what's he's saying here. It would require us, obviously, to, change the wording, on this, on the ordinance, which could take several months anyway. I also looked up, it's 3 to 6 weeks into the growing cycle when it starts to snow, and I don't know how long before the harvest happens. But the stuff that they're proposing to use, like even reading up on it, they're like, well, in general articles, like, well, if you're doing it as an outdoor thing, you have to take a lot more into consideration than if you use it in this specific capacity, which is even on the first one that they gave us, the Canada Busters, like they mentioned, and the FOGCO, they mention it more in use in air ventilation and exhaust systems as a high pressure spray right at the exhaust point, not necessarily as a coverage for an area, because now you have to take into account humidity, wind direction, a bunch of other things that are way less controlled. Now it does, one of the things that he gave does say, well, it's, 98% odor reduction, but that's in a lab controlled test environment, so that's a confined space sprayed in there. Like that doesn't really give us an idea of what it looks like in real life conditions. So I did have some questions for them. I was hoping they were going to be here tonight, but apparently they had other engagements. But I did want to know, like, what other municipalities have these systems been deployed in outdoor facilities? Is the intent to spray this over the crop? Can they even spray it over the crop? Because there's limitations based on, the state testing as to what can be tested in there. Now, the documentation does say it's, it's like a bioenzyme, and it's not considered a hazardous substance, but I would still think, like, you couldn't spray it necessarily over the crops. And if at 3 weeks the plant is, when it starts smelling, and you have to pump this over the crop the entire time until you harvest it, like, it's just constantly running. Like,
It's like September, October, November, are the periods where it smells worse, but even after that, when you start to harvest it and process it,
right.
it can go into December, January, depending on what you got.
But, like, the only way, the way that this is effective is it has to make contact with the odor. Well, if the wind blowing this way or that way, and, like, it's super humid that day, like, it's not as effective.
Are they talking hemp or are they talking marijuana?
They're talking marijuana out there.
I thought before they came in, they were talking hemp.
No, they were saying,
Follow it in, because it could be in it.
they basically, one of their talking points was that, they've already been approached to grow hemp, and hemp will have the same odor issue. The problem with that is, like, the state regulates the hemp growth. So, like,
And also cause pollinators for marijuana and lose marijuana.
right. But, that was some of the questions that I had was, like, how are they intending to use this? Like, they didn't present a plan of, like, what the test property would look like, how they would monitor this, what is the monitoring that they would be using. So there's a lot of ifs and whats thrown up in the air as to, like, what this would even look like if we wanted to even give it a shot. That was kind of my feedback. Anybody else have anything?
I absolutely agree with you.
made a statement there was 35 or 40 townships that already had it.
Well, there are some townships, like Paw Paw, Michigan, had outdoor growth.
I don't really know names, not.
Yeah, well, so Paw Paw is southwestern Michigan.
Well, that's still Michigan, okay.
Right, they had outdoor growth, and there was a bunch of people up in Martinsville, the bump smell. We hear, like, and I know they said, well, that the place uptown is year-round grow, that's different, but it's not really different. I mean, odor's odor, so I don't care what it is. But, you know, look at how many times we've been approved, going to approve a facility and people come in and be like, I don't want it to smell like town. It's like, well, town's not our, you know, town isn't following our similar ordinance layout. So, you know, that's why I'm really leery about it. Because, like, there is no plan as to how they would deploy this.
Well, I am against doing a test site for one individual group, one individual company. So, I'm not against them coming forth, presenting the idea, that's fine. And if they want to present more information, like they said, then I think we should then entertain it and consider it.
Right.
But this year was off the table because before we could ever approve it, they would never ever grow this year anyway. So that takes the time out and relaxes it. I say let them bring the information, put it on future agendas to consider.
Well, so we
And
had,
that's when you do your homework and figure it out.
so we had Mr. Wright help us with the ordinances originally. Would it be worthwhile to have Mr. Wright maybe weigh in on the subject since he is an expert in it?
You can get his opinion on it and then, but again, you would hire him to do any of the actual work.
Right.
Until you decide you want it for.
Right. But it would be worth, that's what I'm asking, is it, do we think it's worthwhile to reach out to Mr. Wright to get his opinion? Because he did help us to develop these
He
ordinances.
needs to find, yeah, he may have information on that because he may have already worked with ordinances that include that. We don't know.
Maybe there's knows of a place that's got this implemented and whether it's working on it, because I'd actually like to see it implemented someplace and say, okay, yeah, it does work. I mean, I think the township is done pretty well as far as with the neighbors and the odors and stuff like that. I mean, when it was first coming in, people were freaking out about it. And it's not so much that way anymore because the township has backed it up. There's not gonna be the odor, we're gonna do something about it. To switch over to this, and roll the dice on it, I'd rather see it somewhere first.
Well, yeah, I would definitely want to see it first, and then also, like, the things in here, if there was a spill and stuff like that, where you have to, you know, take the extra precautions, you don't know how that's gonna affect the land in the future. And also, I mean, if there's any children or anything like that around, and if they're spraying that and it's airborne, is that gonna affect any of the neighbors? And if so, how far does that go? And also, Vassar Township has done a very good job on keeping the smell under control versus everybody's like, oh my gosh, I hate the smell of Vassar. Well, you know what? That is the Old Foundry, that is a Vassar Township, they're totally two different things. But I would have to say that I personally would not like to have that smell around me. I know our neighbors across the street had a grow thing, and I always thought there was a dead skunk somewhere on the road until I finally figured out what it was. Because there was no dead skunk for, 6 weeks on the road. And, how is that going to affect any families with young children that are going to go on to move into the area when it smells like that? Those are just concerns that I would have. But the chemicals being released and how that would affect neighboring properties and stuff like that and the health hazards, that really is a big concern for me.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to consider the fact that folks are, according to state law, able to grow their own however they want. So, like, we can't completely eliminate the odor, but we can try to control large odor producers. And I feel like going to an outdoor grow is kind of a step back from the whole point of what we were trying to do. Unless we have, like, proof, like 100% proof that it's, like, gets it down to where it's not an issue.
And that's the thing too, you could get a grower that is on top of it and, I mean, he's doing everything he can to make it work, but then also you got somebody else that's starting, now I'm gonna do it, and they don't follow up with it.
Well, and I mean, and their argument was, the cost of growing indoors and all this, like, okay, how much more costly is this system gonna be to maintain the level of odor control that we've kind of come to expect out of the facilities here?
One last thing is,
Yeah.
if it gets to the point that we're ever interested in, and we're really interested in an idea of a test site, along with what the lawyer pointed out, in the one paragraph about why people might want it. I'm not saying on the paper we're doing that, by the way, but if it gets to that point, we should probably do it like a lottery. Allow them all to apply.
I
and one gets
believe,
picked.
so when we were originally doing the ordinance with Mr. Wright, he did say that if you have a limited number of licenses and you have a bunch of applicants, you basically have to establish a way to, how are you going to fairly determine who gets that
If
license?
5 want to be involved,
Right.
or maybe one and a half, and one.
I can't remember exactly how he said we had to do it or how we had it outlined, but like that would be a step that we would definitely have to take before we consider that.
It would have to be requirements, so like, I wouldn't wanna give someone a license to try it if they can't get like these others that aren't even keeping their grass long. They're not gonna be on top of their equipment. So if you have a clean record with your license, no issue, then you can go to that.
Well, and then that's where, the attorney made the point, it's all like, well, if he's making money, he might take it to court regardless, so we have the agreement. So, I mean, I think even if we were to even open it up to one license, to allow one company that was willing to be a test site to do this outdoor grow, like, I don't think there's any way that we wouldn't have the attorney involved in some capacity to figure out this, agreement and ultimately, it sounds like the attorney doesn't think, thinks that ultimately it may not mean anything anyway, whenever you spent a bunch of money trying to make it so, it wouldn't backfire in our face.
Yeah, and what is gonna be the cost that is gonna be charged to us for the monitoring of the smell?
Well, I mean, the way his email reads is they would be responsible for doing the monitoring. But what they don't present is what does that look like? How are they, he gives some general ideas of it's real-time monitoring at certain points and 4 slave sensors placed at the property line installed based on the prevailing wind at 90-degree intervals. But, okay, that's great to put that in words, but what does that look like?
Yeah.
What is that? What are you talking? Talking about specifically?
I wonder if somebody from here would be willing to come and hold, and question and answer on their system.
Well, but if you read through the paperwork, almost all of them, they do mention that it could be used for outdoor grows.
Right.
But all the big things that they talk about is greenhouses, extraction drying facilities, distribution or warehousing, and then outdoor crops is kind of an afterthought.
Right.
Everything, and even the pictures here, it's showing exhaust systems, and it talks about, misting into exhaust systems. So it seems like it's very well tested for that application. So great, yeah, it works for that application, but it really doesn't, none of them go into any kind of detail of if you spray it outside, it'll work, right? It was at it was given to us at the last meeting.
Yeah, and if you look at this, a lot of it says unknown, how it affects animals, unknown, how it affects humans, unknown.
Well, and some of that comes down to the fact that they've classified it as a non-toxic substance, so once they did it. But then again,
Plastic effects on humans.
asbestos was considered non-toxic for a long time, and then they found out that it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cigarettes are not having, slow smoking, no, but.
I mean, that's, I think the bigger question here is, it's very clear from the documentation and even some of the, so like the one, what's it, the Canna Buster order stopper, there's a little QR code that you can watch a video. I went and watched the video. They purported for use like in indoor house, in your house. You put it in like a nebulizer thing to knock down pet odors and all that. So like they're using it, but they're using it in an indoor control. Like they don't really ever once mention like, well, yeah, you got an odor outside, you want to knock it down. Like you can spray this all over your property and it's gonna help knock it down.
Or keep it in your basement, not upstairs.
Right. So I mean, I guess where is everybody at on
The
it?
township supervisor, when they brought this up to him, he was 100% clear to him that the residents are the number one issue. If they complain, it's not gonna happen.
Okay. Sam?
I said, no. No way we're gonna stop it. Well, our circulating winds we've got, because of the trees, you can't stop it.
Bob?
We get a lot of issues, just like Sam says, the wind and I don't care what it is, you can't, I can remember when Palmer used to be, where
Yeah.
the wind was, one day, the wind this week was.
Saturday's supposed to be high enough and then dispersed
You
over
didn't,
town.
you didn't even notice it, and then the very maybe next day, the wind changes, and it was fast, but, your marijuana industry is the largest income Michigan has. And
Right,
a
but
lot
I
of
also
people
just
work
saw
there.
an article today where one of the bigger players is getting out of it because of the slump in the.
It's because they can't make no money on it. DTE's too much, employees want too much, and it's too bad because there's a lot of people that feed their families off the industry, including buying gas, or groceries, whatever. And it's like I remember when Myers and IGA and them used to be here and they shut down. It hurt this town. The foundry shut down. It was a big impact here, and there's a lot of people that are.
So are you?
I'm just saying, there's pros and cons to all of it. I don't like the smell, but I've always been for business. Maybe that's because I own a business, and I don't really think so. As long as you follow the rules, you should be able to have a business. As well as whether you approve of the business. Maybe you don't want a junkyard next to you, but if you got commercial, not commercial, but industrial next to you, and they qualify for it, they can have it. And that's all I'm saying, is I hate to see the schools lose money, I hate to see the township lose money, but it's older, I don't know how you're ever in control.
Yeah, and you're gonna miss out on families moving to the area because it smells the way it does.
Township residents, what affects them is what happens first.
Ben, your thoughts?
I'm not hard no, I'm a no to now. I think we put it on the burner, and if they bring more information, and if we want to hire Wright to get us some information, consider it for future, that's fine.
You know, 7 companies already going out right now, as we speak, gone.
Okay. If we,
Close the doors. She won't be getting $5,000, she won't be getting nothing anymore, none of the employees will be working there. Nothing
but doesn't the tax sharing come from having
to do with the tax sharing. I mean, they're paying school taxes, they're.
but you're talking property tax, not the extra additional funding that comes from having the provision centers.
A business pays tax.
Yeah, you're talking specifically about
A business.
the land taxes.
Yeah. School, all of it.
If we got more information, some more solid information on like what the system would look like, from that perspective, like information like that, firsthand accounts of these, like, revisit this, just to come back to it.
One word's being used, and then we can make our own decision. Very good. Like you said.
Alright, so, need more info, okay.
So just to clarify though, when you check Fenton Township, they do allow for it since last year.
No. No.
So
As
he
far
might
as-
have been talking about something else and we all heard him wrong. Or
I mean, he
said
put it-
wrong name.
he put it in the email
Did he?
as the, like, well, look, this is already being done in Pettit Township for 5 years. Like, that's what,
Okay.
yeah, that is part of what's throwing up a red flag. It's like, oh, for 5 years they've been doing this. It's like, that's impossible when their ordinance was signed into law in 2024.
And it says no government.
It says all operations must be indoor operations.
So I was just curious if
Yeah.
you misspoke and it's not
Right.
Fenton Township, it's something.
That's what
It's not fair.
I'm trying to.
I understand that, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't bring my copy tonight of that, but.
yeah, I mean, and I looked at a couple of different municipalities, and like, some ordinances are better than others, like, I looked at, was it Montclair Townships, and you couldn't make heads or tails of odor control for their marijuana, it was just all like, well, nuisance orders and this, but it didn't really say if they allowed for outdoor.
We wanna do what we can to control the odor,
Correct.
but at the same time, we gotta be realistic, the odor is there. Everybody already has the right to grow, you know, be
Right.
caregiver or 72
Yeah,
hours.
yeah,
But
but
still,
Well, yeah, but you're talking, you know,
Right.
70 or 12 plants or 72 plants or whatever, you know, whatever that max is compared to 500,
I
the
understand.
1,000 plants.
I am pointing out that
Right,
we keep hearing we don't want outdoor at all, well, it's there, we're not gonna stop. But we
Right.
can control the large ones.
Right.
And put the restrictions on.
yeah. We can minimize the impact, I think is what we want to
There
do.
you go.
Yeah. And the only place that we have that ability is with these commercial roads. Okay, so, yeah, I will try to I'll try to email Rachel to reach out to Mr. Long to get maybe like a proposal as to what like, obviously, I think Ben is right, like, we have to open it up as a lottery type system, we can't just have, like, we can't just say like, yep, this person's gonna be the person to do this, right? That person also has to agree to whatever stipulations and restrictions.
Right, we have to be attorney right it up,
Right,
as rock solid as possible,
right,
that it's an experiment.
correct,
It's a 1-year period,
right,
non-renewable, basically, you can get the new one in a
Right.
year if we agree with it.
right, yep,
But that one is non-renewable.
right. Okay, then let's move on to the dangerous building ordinance. We got a different version at the last meeting from the one that I sent out. I mean, I still, even after having time to sit down and read it, I still question why there's no means outlined for a appeal of the decision outlined in this, like the other ordinance. I know you said you didn't have a chance to get the attorney, but like that would be the main question that I have for the attorney is why on the old version we had a way to appeal it. This version that we've got now, there is no means to appeal this decision. Because, I mean, I know of a house right now that if we would have passed this, you know, when we first talked about it, like right now, the building codes would be able to declare it condemnable, and there would be no way to appeal it. Like, I know of a house right now that, like, based on the way that this reads, like, there would be no turning back and be like, yep, nope, that could now, I understand safe built has to make that decision, but the way that this is written, like, yeah, you could declare that building as a dangerous building, if somebody really wanted to push the issue. But then there's no outline method to appeal it. So I mean, I think my big thing first and foremost is there needs to be a defined appeal process. And then, you know, it does mention the township building department a couple of times, which we don't have a building department. I understand Safeville does our building codes, but we would need to define that is the equivalent, so township building department or board approved equivalent. And then the other question I had was, because like almost all of our other ordinances, doesn't the violation and penalties exist outside of the ordinance? Doesn't it exist outside on a fines table? Instead of in the ordinance, because then you're not having to change the ordinance constantly if you need to update it?
We don't determine the fines anymore.
So then why do we have a minimum and maximum fine?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's, the court decides the fines.
Who wrote this again? This copy?
I think the lawyer did.
Yeah, and the lawyer said that this was, when that came, the lawyer said this is what is in many, many townships in the state already. That's when they first sent that to you, because I just, in my mind, I would go, well, whether you agree with every line on it, if it is truly in many other townships, and that's why the attorney presented it to you exactly that way.
Okay, but then I would argue, when we were doing the zoning ordinance stuff with Alex, there was stuff that he said like, well, in many other townships, they don't allow you to park on your lawn. That ain't gonna fly here, like, just because it's in other townships, doesn't mean we can't question why it's that way. Like, there's gotta be, like, if there's no explanation as to why it's that way, so like, perfect example, 180 days, where it's remains unoccupied.
Why don't we go over it page by page and just see who has questions or problems on each page? Rather
I
than.
mean, that's fine, yeah, I was just, like, these were my findings when I got through it.
Right, and like your comment about, no appeal, it's not on the page, so that would just be talked about whatever.
Right. But, so I mean, that was the four things that I definitely had from reading through it. This version of it, so, I mean, it's definitely open to, Open
Page
for-
one.
Okay, let's go to page one.
I have a question around the very first sentence.
Okay.
An ordinance to secure the public peace. I'm against that word, and that word should be removed. Everything we always have gone to trainings for, everything that we're supposed to do is for the health, safety, and welfare of the general public of our township. Why is the word peace in there? It's not normally in our ordinances.
I think the reason that's in there is if you go to, where is it? I had it because I thought it was a weird thing to say. It had to do with, here it is. So it was, section 2, item G. When a building or structure has been so damaged by fire, wind, or flood, or has become so dilapidated or deteriorated as to become an attractive nuisance to children who might play there within, to afford a harbor for vagrants, criminals, or immoral persons, or as to enable persons to resort there to the purposes of committing a nuisance or unlawful or immoral acts. That there is probably why peace was put in there.
You still agree with the word peace, that it's
Yeah.
still fall under health, safety.
Yeah,
Welfare.
yeah, I agree, but I bet that's part of the thought process of peace.
That's my problem with that word.
And I think all of ours, I think all of our ordinances say health, safety, and welfare.
That's what everything always says, yeah, I don't remember the word peace. If it's in other ones, I haven't got it, because I would have questioned it before. And then the same page, paragraph B at the bottom there. And it's gonna come up in different parts, the same question, but, as amended, I'll go a sentence up. As amended, or the building code of the township for a new building or similar structure. I only wonder about the word new building in several different places, because it's saying that it has to comply with new buildings and new codes. But if the building was built according to the code, it should have nothing to do with the current code. Your building has to be legal as you built it. So, in my
Right,
opinion,
but
it
how
shouldn't say
are you-
new. If you're comparing it to new, a lot of buildings aren't in there.
Right.
A house built just a few years ago, like your mom and dad's, might not comply with today's ordinance.
It's damaged by fire or wind.
It's gonna show up many times though, it's comparing it to new, it shouldn't be compared to new, it should be, I don't know the exact right wording.
Well, I see what Ben's saying, so it's whenever it becomes damaged by fire, wind, and you're comparing it to a new building or similar structure based on the Public Act of 1917 as amended, or the building code of the township. I get what Ben's coming from.
I'm
Like,
only
if you're-
questioning the word new here, comparing it to new.
Right, if you're saying it's been damaged, and your only point of reference is a new building and new construction code, then how do you determine if it's been damaged enough to have been structurally unsound under the code that it was built under? Because the code that it was built under, you know, I mean, some places now, you have to have 2x6 walls, right? Well, if the place had 2x4 walls,
It would never qualify.
it wouldn't, you know, now it's not structurally sound to begin with.
If you do any major, repairs on a building though, you do have to bring it up to code.
And that's not entirely true. Certain things you do, certain things you don't. Using his example of if 2x4 structures were always legal and now you have to have 2x6, you don't have to rebuild your whole house because you're doing an addition. Your existing house is still okay. If you have a kitchen fire, your rest of your house is still okay.
Right. You would have to, yeah, if you're making an improvement, you would have to improve it to new code. If something becomes damaged and you wanted to appeal it to where you said, hey, I can fix it, right? And bring it up to the safety structure, yeah, you might have to build it to that code. But in of itself, when it was built, would it still be considered structurally sound to that code when it was built?
The new kitchen would have to be brought up.
But the whole building wouldn't necessarily.
That they don't do that.
So, just for you, I'm not against this paragraph, be clear. I'm not against this. I would like a correction, some wording or something on that one part, on that paragraph. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I think I understand what you're saying, and maybe it's just not.
I don't know the proper wording, I'll admit that. And if the lawyer wrote it, that's an easy job for him, I'm sure.
Right.
I have no questions on maybe one, those two.
Anybody else with anything else?
Well, wouldn't it fall to like the state of Michigan being a building?
Well,
That's
Safeville would be determining its structural safety based on the building codes. I think what Ben is trying to get at, and maybe I'm just not expressing it right, is that the code has changed multiple times. If you're basing your structural security on existing code today, there's a high likelihood it's just gonna fail just because the code wasn't structurally sound back then to begin with.
Right, but, so if my kitchen catches fire, when my kitchen is redone, it would have to be done to the current building codes, even though the rest of my house may not be. The permit that's being pulled, what's being fixed, would have to be to current standard codes. So even if the wind damaged my roof, and it
to what extent the damage was done, right? Because if you have a grease fire and your wall is scorched, and Safe Built comes in and your wall is built with 2x4 walls, and code now says, well, it's only structurally sound if it's 2x6 walls. Is that scorching enough to determine that it is now structurally unsound? And maybe I'm being too.
I can see that though, because there's new materials that are better than the old materials that they use now. How much insulation goes up into your roof, or your attic, and all of that's different. So if you do have to do a repair, the repair has to be done to code. But the rest of the place, if there wasn't damage, is still.
Right, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, like fire, to what extent are we considering it fire damage? Is it it's to the point where it is truly a structural hazard, or is it just fire damage?
And then you gotta look at too, do you need a permit for that? That's where it's gonna fall into.
Right, well,
No, this is when it's already, you've turned it into something, for example. That's when this is gonna come into play.
Though we had an ordinance already that's 50%,
Yeah.
then you have to do it. Otherwise,
Well, you're about to override that though, I believe, when you read this. Just go right back to the section number 2, that's what I'm reading, but go to the top, section 2, same paragraph, same section. The use of the ordinance as used, definition. As used in this ordinance, the term dangerous building means any building or structure, residential or otherwise, which has any of the following defects or is in any of the following conditions. Now jump down to it. So if it has this problem, something happened that caused this to come to light, and then it doesn't compare to a new building, then it's a dangerous building. That's my problem. It's just the word new. It should be compared to what it was supposed to be, not what it isn't by future ordinances.
and I think that there's a definite, my parents had a kitchen fire. Yeah, it broke a couple of cabinets and whatever, and, the house smelled like smoke. But only the cabinets and the countertop had to be replaced, so never was it going to be a dangerous building.
And it probably never got turned into that, so that never came into play.
Right, exactly. So obviously, if it's gonna be considered a dangerous building, it has big issues. Whether there's a hole in the roof or whatever.
Okay, so if there's a hole in the roof, you get condemned, you have to fix it, but you don't have to build the whole house up to the current code.
No,
But
but,
this might say you have to. That's my problem with the word new, because you're comparing it to new buildings. New code.
I would say whatever is being repaired or fixed or replaced has to be up to new codes.
Which is why I wanted to suggest the lawyer look at that word and help us fix it.
Replacing it is one thing. This is defining how you are determining whether it is structurally unsound. Because it says, because if you look at it, or any other cause in such a manner that the structural strength or stability is appreciably less than it was before such a catastrophe and is less than the minimum requirements of the housing law, the State of Michigan Acts, the 167 Public Acts, 1917, as amended, or the building code of the township for a new or similar structure. So if it's determined that, if somebody makes a determination that, because the drywall came off, now the building is structurally unsound because it doesn't meet the minimum requirements of the new building, well, yeah, it wasn't going to, because it was built to the construction code where you only had to have, whatever, like quarter-inch sheeting or whatever, on the outside of the building, whatever that is. I think the question is, because of how this is worded, it does say catastrophe, so it does imply a level of damage, but it doesn't really, it's not.
It needs a lot of interpretation, and then that word new comes into play.
Right.
Anyway, that was my one question on that.
Anybody else with any issues on page one, or shall we move on to page two? I think you're looking at the old one, yeah. Sure. Anybody, alright, let's move on to page two then. Ben, what did you have,
Under D right away, the same word. It comes up throughout here, so this is the last time I actually marked it.
yeah,
If it's in here any other place, I would like to change there too. And I actually wrote myself a note here. Questioning new, shouldn't it be codes that were in effect at the time? In other words, built for the right. Again, that has nothing to do with it, it's actually as a matter, make current code. I understand that.
right. Well, I
How
think,
about comparing the type things?
I think the difference
If you're doing
between,
minor repair.
I think the difference between B and D though is B, so I think the catch in B is that it has to be appreciably less than it was before such. And then it also less than the minimum requirement, where D is any portion that settles in such an event that the wall or other structural portions are materially less resistant to wind than is required in the case of a new construction. So really it should be, you might need to add the line, or strength or stability is appreciably less than it was before such settling.
That might help right there.
Yeah. Or it is required in the case of new construction. That might be the sentence. Now that I'm looking at how D is worded compared to B, that might be what is making B in a position where it's like, okay, you are taking into consideration that it was at one point in time structurally sound. Right. And this damage, has it made that structural stability, has it gone beyond that capacity structural stability? So maybe D needs that. It needs to say where it's materially less resistant to winds than before such settling event, and actually should probably be and or is less than, well, no, it should be and is less than, because if you say and or, then you can base it off of either. So it would be and less than the building code.
And that would be determined by state code?
Yes. Which would be, that's where I was saying, where it says, because it'll say the township building department in a couple of spots. So that should be defined as or board appointed equipment, whatever that is. Because safe building isn't really, we don't have a township building department, we utilize the county building codes.
I'm sure insurance companies would have a copy of that stuff too.
But you see what I'm getting at, right?
I understand what you're saying. I want to remind everybody though, everything we're talking about right now is only one subject. What is a dangerous building?
Right.
We're not talking about anything else. What's almost, what is a dangerous building? If it doesn't compare to new, it could be considered a dangerous building.
Right. Well, and that's why I said, I
And
think,
that's gonna come up multiple times, because the whole page 2 is all that definition still, and half of page 3 is all that still.
What would be the alternate verbiage?
I don't think there is alternate verbiage. I mean, I think that's,
Well, I think it's kind of pretty clear when you say if it's dilapidated, deterioration, if there's a hole in the roof, I mean, obviously it's not safe for you to be living in there. So then there should be a plan of, okay, yeah, I have this house and it's in disrepair, but I'm working on it, blah, 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 blah. And then it shouldn't be considered, in 6 months, they can check back in after that person, or a year to make sure that progress is being made to fix those.
yeah, but right now, the way this is worded, that isn't even an option.
Yeah, well, it needs to be an option. Because there's a lot of people who buy houses that may not be up to snuff and turn around and fix them up and flip them.
The house that I mentioned that would have fallen under the 180 day consecutive occupancy. Like, that is the same case where, like, it needs major repair work, you know? But right now, the way it's worded, there is no appeals process to that. But anyway,
Alright, so my problem is just because we're defining what is a dangerous building, and I don't like that word comparing everything to new. Because you could take a building that has some small catastrophe, and the whole building could be condemned by this definition. And all you gotta do is fix that word new somehow. You can't say, oh, you gotta say comply with whatever, I don't know how to say it.
or,
And it could be worded differently in different paragraphs too, by the way, you know, the correction.
is materially less resistant to winds than was required when built, or, yeah, I think you basically just have to say,
Of construction date.
yeah.
The problem that I think everybody has to remember is, you're defining it, and then it's gonna be up to someone else to interpret what you define. So they come along, you have a small, I'm gonna use a hopefully ridiculous scenario here. You have a small kitchen fire, and they find your whole house doesn't compare to modern construction, therefore your house is condemned. And it's a ridiculous stretch, but you're giving the person the ammunition. Fix a word, he doesn't have that ammunition. That's what I'm trying to do. So when that being said, that word does show up a few times in a comparison way. So I think it needs to be looked at in every place it shows up. On page 2, the other question or problem I have is the entire bottom paragraph, J.
Okay,
All
so
the way including to the next page.
do we have what Safeville uses as their definition of a dilapidated or dangerous building?
They'll use
They
this
use
right here.
articles.
Yeah.
They use articles by the state.
I think we
They're
do that.
bound by the state.
So they wouldn't need this, and we were told they need this, so that doesn't make sense.
I think I have a copy of the new state rules somewhere.
Was this done by our attorney?
You said so, like,
No, not this one.
Michael Beal.
Ah,
Yeah, Michael Beal.
okay. We was talking about the public, not this.
well, this is the one we were looking at. when you
So
said
you're
this.
paying an attorney to do this, and then it's never right. The other one wasn't right, this one isn't right, you never.
Well, that's why I wanted to
Just
set up
keep
a
wasting
Zoom
money.
meeting, so you guys could ask the question, but I didn't get any, reply on whether or not it was gonna be on the agenda, so.
Well, I said at the last meeting, Troy, which you were here, that it was going to be on this agenda, because we
Well, I
got
also
this
did
version.
send, I also did send an email.
Well, you were also at the meeting when you handed us this version, and we had to read through this, and I said, okay, this is going to be on the next meeting agenda. But it was said plain to everybody.
Okay, well, that's fine. All you gotta do is say yes or no.
It's been 3 months, and you still ain't happy.
I'm still used to the whole thing.
I've been arguing with you.
So anyway, J, bottom of page 2, including J1 and J2 on the next page. I don't think that entire paragraph should be there. There's plenty of other ways to say it's unsafe. It's not the only.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that needing to give notice of needing to give someone notice that your secondary dwelling is going to be
And I
unoccupied.
think that whole paragraph, section J.
I mean, there's got to be a reasoning behind it. What is the
Sure, it
justification?
gives you teeth to go backwards on somebody for no other reason. It's literally what it's for.
Right.
Article 25 by the state means nothing, right? Because you disagree with it, right?
No, hold on. Article 25 is only
There's a whole lot more
defining.
than just this.
All Article 25 is defining is what does it means to be an estate broker, a real estate broker licensed person. That's all Article 25 is defining. It has to be a building that is up, that has not been listed as being available for sale, lease, or rent with a real estate broker licensed under Article 25. That's just defining what it means to be a real estate broker. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're considering that a building.
Exactly, no point. That makes no sense.
Yeah, the only part
So
that
you
I
go away
really
for
like-
181 days, you come back and find your house gone because you were informed. They kind of
It's
pick
all
them
disarray. And, yeah,
This is a definition. If it's vacant for 180 days, it's a vacant building. That's the definition. Remember, J is all about number 2. What is a dangerous building? If it's vacant for 180 days, it's dangerous. That's the definition. That's why it shouldn't be there.
I don't think that there should be any time limit, like my in-laws are in Florida for 8 months of the year, their house is.
Well, as long as you tell someone from the township building codes that you're not gonna be there, you can.
I don't think, yeah, that's.
But that's what is defined in here. The secondary dwelling of an owner that is regularly occupied for a period of 180 days or longer each year will not apply if the owner notifies the township building department that the dwelling will remain unoccupied for a period of 180 consecutive days or more each year.
I think that should be taken out. The only part that I like is number 2, maintaining an exterior building structure that is in ordinance with the rest of the township. So you gotta pay somebody to mow the lawn, you gotta pay somebody to, if the tree comes down and lands in the driveway, that stuff needs to be maintained.
I mean, in both cases, you have to notify the township building department that the building or structure will remain unoccupied. So you have to go tell, in this case, you have to go tell Statesville that your building's not going to be occupied for 180 days.
No, I don't think that's something that we need in there.
I understand what you're saying about the lawn and stuff too. That's why we have other ordinances. I don't believe. Remember, again, 2 is all part of J, which is a definition of what's a dangerous building. That's why I think, in my opinion, you're correct, it should be removed. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have to maintain. I agree with you there. But that shouldn't be here.
Okay. I can concede to that. Yeah, I don't think that you should have to notify the township or Stateville that you are not going to be occupying your dwelling.
Like I said, unless there is some reasoning behind it, it does seem counterproductive. Like, it does seem to be in there just for a means to be like, well, those people have been there 180 days. And also, how are you proving that it has been unoccupied for 180 days? We just had a discussion at the beginning, like, oh, well, how do we prove that they have residency there? Like, how do we also prove that's been, unless the person died, how do you prove that somebody hasn't been there for 180 days? Well, maybe they just weren't there the week that you went by the place, right?
And if they do have 180 days, maybe they can publish that so that way I can go squat in a house that's next to mine and then
Yeah.
take over.
Yeah.
when they know the house is empty, they can go with it.
Yeah.
Careful, you go on vacation, Mom, I know where you live.
I am also in agreement that J should be either removed or some explanation as to the theory behind it be given, which would require the attorney to explain why in theory this is
Why
required.
does 180 days make a dangerous building?
Yeah. But I also agree that it should be not in there. Alright, everybody
You want to
else?
do it like show of hands, how we move?
Well, I think everybody, I don't know how we want to do this, because it also sounds like we need to get the attorney to explain.
Okay, so just a list of questions then.
Yeah, this is just a list of questions, at this point, it's just a list of questions.
Along with the, we don't like it, if we agree as a whole. We
Right.
want J removed if he doesn't got a better explanation. He can always counter anything.
Right,
You want it removed, but I would recommend blank.
right,
That's what I assume you would do.
right. So, everybody I guess let's start with does everybody agree that we need more clarity on why that 180-day period is or is not important?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got to give a yes, no, I'm still think it should be gone.
Well,
I can't.
I mean, if it's important.
Come back to that.
Yeah, if it's important, like, okay, well, then you should have an explanation as to why it's important. If it's not important, then, like, I think the next,
From it being abused.
yeah. All right, and move on to the next page then.
That page included that part of that paragraph.
Yeah, then it goes to K, where the dangerous building also includes any signs, fences, sheds, which, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that also makes sense, that should be in there.
No problem with that. Number 4 is where I have the next question. Smash problem. I heard it said a little while ago. I don't believe that should be in here. That's a township board. The board has already approved having these municipal civil infractions. The board has set the fines. And they don't usually show up in an ordinance.
But
And
also,
if they do, and the board changes it, and they don't change it here, then it becomes out of compliance.
right, and Troy just said that the court sets the fines, so,
But that's also something that confuses me because we don't even use this civil infraction anymore, do we? Municipal civil infraction. We actually go after them for compliance and the court puts some kind of fee on them if they don't comply.
I mean,
This is, you can start the process, they already owe the fine hypothetically according to this, and then if they don't comply, then you go to court.
yeah, it's still just fine people. I can't set the amount of a fine. I tried that before and they
If
rejected
the
it.
attorney wrote this, he's telling you you're wrong, you can. The same attorney that goes to the court and knows the rules, so.
No, that's not the same attorney that goes.
Same company,
Yes.
same firm.
Yeah.
So anyway, my only question there is, I think it's not pertinent here, that's my opinion, it needs to be addressed.
well, or at least not the fines table shouldn't be in there, right? Like, still,
Well, it's A or
any
B.
person,
Do we still use the municipal civil infraction process, and if we do, then should it be here or not?
We have the fines in our current, ordinances, but the court just don't use that.
So if you've ticketed the person, and it's their first offense, $75, and it gets to court, the court still issues a different number if they want to put them on.
Yes.
They don't say the 75 holds up.
No. No, they make their own.
so then it sounds like it should be, the municipal civil infraction thing doesn't really exist.
They won't even accept a citation with a value on it.
Then why in the world did the attorney put it in here?
I pointed out. Probably because it was standard, maybe they wrote it for another municipality and, you know, I don't know. Because we have a different, court system.
Okay, well, I'm not questioning that there's fines, I'm questioning, do we use this process and should it be here or should it be somewhere else? Maybe there's just a snippet goes in here, you'll be subject to fines, see the township fine schedule or something.
Right. I think that makes more sense than you not have it updated in 15 different places if it needs to change. All right,
That was supposed to be posted on the wall or somewhere, is it? It's not in this room anymore, so it must be somewhere else. Fee schedule.
No,
It was something that.
it'll be in the court board in the vestibule.
Oh, the vestibule, okay.
all right, then, let's move on to the next page, because I mean, that's basically most of that page. Well, actually, if you look at the next thing, it says, if a determination of responsibility made by the court may impose costs as provided by law in addition to the fines called of. It sounds like the court just says, no, this is the fine you're gonna pay.
Well, I can tell you, just from the citations that I've wrote in the past that have, a fine on them, or they put the fine on them, that it is not anywhere, the money that we receive is not anywhere near what is in our,
fee schedule.
fee schedule.
Right.
Yeah, it's not even close. I think, the fines, were $110. I remember one being $110, and I remember, John showing me that we got like $18 or something like that. Yeah. It wasn't very much, it was pennies.
Yeah. But to go back to what we're discussing here is the way this is written. It says basically if the court is fine responsibility, that they should be adding on addition to the fine. So that needs to be figured out. And if we can't, then having that in there doesn't make sense because the court's gonna automatically override it.
Yeah, I mean, the court is adding to our fine, but we're not getting our amount from the court. Like, we have in there
Well, hold on.
$75.
So they're adding.
They're adding money, like if it's $75, they might go and charge them $110 and give us $18. You see what I'm saying?
So they are. So I guess I'm confused because it sounds like they are using our fines, but then they're adding on the additional, but we're not getting the fine back. But they are
Yes.
using our fine as the starting point.
I believe so, I don't know.
Okay.
But I do know that the fine that is supposed to be on that citation, which I cannot put on that citation, that fine, by the time I get the information on that, the money is higher, the fine is higher than what we would charge.
But
So it's-
their cost they get.
So
They
you're
pay for the
They're
money.
adding more to that.
right, but it sounds like if you can't put on the citation or tell them what our fine is, that what they're charging is the fine they're applying to it, not actually our fine plus an additional amount.
And they know they have our
Fee schedule.
They have everything. They have all our zoning ordinances, all our general ordinances. They got fee schedules. They get everything. They have all that on file. If you want a copy, they'll charge you $1 for it per copy.
I'm just sitting there thinking, as many questions as there is, imagine if you're the homeowner trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
It's gotta be simplified somehow.
Yeah. Our court system is a little bit different than the majority of the court systems in the state.
Well, and that's where I go back to the way the other one was written. Because, like, you've got to pull up here, the Dangerous Building Board of Appeals.
Right.
Like, that allows it to be handled before it even gets to the court, and
There's no reason why you can't take all of them and combine them how you want it, and then we present it to the lawyer, and the lawyer says, well, you can do this, or you can't do this because of some reason.
Right, because if you did a board, at least the homeowner would have some place that they could call and ask questions and say, hey, what do I do here?
right. Well, that was one of the pieces that was removed in this version. That's like, why was that removed? That actually seems like the most reasonable piece that was in it to begin with. There was a way to appeal it.
I think the one he was talking about, that came from MTA.
The very first version that you gave me.
It's got something about a hearing or.
Well, it has the establishment of the dangerous board of appeals.
That one came from MTA. The one that I printed out, that one come from Michael Beal, our attorney, one of our attorneys.
Maybe. If that came from MTA, I don't know why our name and everything was on it. Like MTA rarely ever gives guidance quite that thorough.
Well, I know one of them came from MTA, and one of them come from.
I mean, it could just be that somebody put it in a format to add the Vassar Township, like all this at the top of it. Somebody could have added this, but like usually, that's the one, that was the old version. That was what that we had to go over.
And then there was this one.
And then this
This one here,
this is the one that you gave us at the last meeting.
that's the one that Michael Vila
Yeah.
sent. This is the one from MTA.
Okay.
Okay. This one here came from the attorney too. I don't know who wrote that.
I gave this one all enforcement hearings, like, and this has enforcement hearings and everything.
Yeah, that one also came from the attorney. That was like one of the very, very first ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Which has a lot of stuff that,
But
I mean, I feel is missing from this report.
well, put them together and see what you like, and what you like. And then I'll issue it back to the attorney, and the attorney will contact me. Huh?
He needs to just come.
Yeah, but it costs a lot of money for him to come up here.
All right, Ben, do you have anything else on that last page?
Just one thing in the middle of that, or the bottom half of that first paragraph, and it's probably gotta stay there, but it's don't. Third line up, halfway around across the line. Every day the violation is permitted to exist shall constitute a separate offense. I don't like that, I don't understand it, the way the whole thing is written, it makes it irrelevant. They've got the process, so every day shouldn't be anything to do with it. If they go past a certain point, then it goes to court.
Yeah, that's it. We
That comes in a lot of ordinances, I know that.
Yeah.
I see it a lot. Doesn't make sense, I don't like it. I'm just putting that away.
Yeah, 'cause you can.
There has to be a way to appeal it, is the other thing you already said. So.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a question I had for you. You said about the building code, or the building department. And I've actually somehow missed that, but it still says that in this copy.
It was, hold on, I gotta remember where I saw it.
Because if it's in here, I believe it should either be corrected, or we should find out if we have to come up with a building authority.
I think it was part of that, it was in that 180, yeah, it was in the 180 day stuff. Notify the township building department that the building is structured like,
okay, so it said it in there.
yeah. Which,
Township building department, right there.
yeah. Which also means that that is the department that should be enforcing this, which also means like that needs to be stated as or equivalent appointed by the board of trustees, which would that be safe to put that?
Well, I only wanted to ask you that because I didn't see it,
Yes.
and it's in that part I don't believe should be here anyhow. If it somehow sticks, then we need clarification on that. Does the township have to come up with a building authority?
Well, but I think that also then goes back to the section, like, so on the other one that we have, section 9, Dangerous Building Board of Appeals.
Right.
Like, so yeah, you
If they
have to,
appeals.
right, and I think that would be, and that also gets into some of the zoning ordinance stuff that I have questions on, but, like, there's sometimes, like, some of these definitions are thrown in here, and it's like, we don't have that, so like in the new zoning ordinance, it talks about the planning department, we don't have a planning department,
Right.
unless the zoning administrator is the planning department, and
Right.
we've never
So we need
defined.
clarification, yeah. The same thing.
But anyway,
Yeah,
that's
if
the
it
same
sticks,
thing.
then we need to definitely, we need to figure it out. If it doesn't stick and we remove it, it's irrelevant.
Right. But also, so leading into that, there is, it just says the fire codes and that are effective within the township. It also doesn't say, that now was the complaint I had the other night, or last meeting, is it doesn't define who is actually making this determination. Like, who's enforcing this definition? Who is the person that ultimately is responsible for reading this and saying that, okay, here's the building code, here's what your ordinance says. Yes, by this definition, it's a violation, it's a dangerous building. But there is no place where it defines who's making that determination.
Right, and it should be in here, correct?
Right.
Because right now, our answer is safe build, but who's safe build?
Well, it's the county codes.
I know,
we normally have-
if you're the homeowner,
Right.
you gotta figure that out.
Well, you normally have like a department in here, and the department would be zoning, or, what is Troy's job?
Zoning administrator.
Zoning administrator
they're appointed by the board of trustees, whatever, yeah.
We would discuss not using a particular name, but that's what we're calling codes, who is in charge.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the state bill could be gone.
Well, and that's where I said it's gotta be, or authority there appointed by the board of trustees, whoever, so.
Right, those
What
are
it
the
changes,
covered.
yeah. Yeah. Alright. So we've got some questions on this, I think everybody, at least it sounded like most everybody was in agreement that there needs to be some sort of appeals process in here. And also, it needs to define, there needs to be somewhere in here defining who's responsible for enforcing this. Because right now it does not define, it talks about enforcement, but it doesn't say who's enforcing. So who enforces appeals process? All right. So I think we've got enough to go throw some stuff back at the attorney.
Okay, yeah, I just get a copy of it and I'll send it to them, and then, I will set up a Zoom meeting for the next, regular.
It'll be on the next regular meeting.
And, I'll have it all set up.
If we're gonna do a Zoom meeting, then it has to probably be planned at what point in the meeting will we do it.
If you're gonna set it up, it'll be right after, I'll set it, if you're gonna confirm that you can do it, so text me that he's going to be able to do a Zoom meeting, we'll do it right after we receive and set public hearings.
Okay.
We'll get it out of the way at the beginning of the meeting.
Have our new TV set. So we might have our new TV set by then.
We got one for sale.
Alright, so next agenda item is the draft zoning ordinance and changes. I had a chance to go through even deeper, since the last meeting.
We have, just quick,
Yeah.
do you have a detailed expense capital request form in here? Is there a reason?
Yeah, it's right before public comment.
Oh.
It shouldn't take very long.
Okay.
I forgot, let's take it over. Is there anything for Parks and Rec that we need to know about?
Well, the hill is done.
Yeah.
Grass I see is coming up. It did come in at a higher price, which the trustees voted on in their meeting, so. And then there are the events. The last one, the craft one, went really good. There is July 26th.
Color War. Yeah, for the kids.
Yeah.
But no, there's no, nothing that we gotta take action on.
You guys put it in the paper or something, did you, or a grocery store or something?
They're put flyers on, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't have anything right now. We do have information on playground stuff, but I want to go over that with the reason before I send it in.
Okay. Yeah, so then we'll go to the draft zoning and completely forgot about the Parks and Rec stuff. So we'll go into that. So I know maybe the best way to go through this is page by page. We'll go for a little bit and see where we get. Page 1, I didn't have anything. Did anybody have anything on page 1? Okay, page 2, the only thing I had was the date of when it was adopted, which needs to be fixed.
That whole paragraph, right?
Yep,
Section 1.08.
yep. Anybody else have anything on page 2? If not, then on page 3, based on how we've been approaching ordinance violations and whatnot now, I think A needs to have some mention of local law enforcement. So the provision of the zoning ordinance shall be administered and enforced by zoning administrator, designated by the township board as the zoning administrator and marijuana coordinator are to enforce provision of the zoning ordinance in conjunction with local law enforcement, because it has to involve local law enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay. So it has to, we have to add that in there. And then the other thing that I had, was we need to verify that power was given back to us for the preparation of the township master plan and any necessary amendments, for recommendation to the township board. If we got the power back to where we can approve the master plan, we had to verify that. Anybody else with notes on page
Those are my exact notes.
3? Okay. Page 4. The only thing I had there was, item 9, review and take action on any request for private road approval. In the old zoning ordinance and general ordinance, it got moved to where private roads were controlled under the general policing ordinances, but we had to do some sort of pre-recommendation process. So we need to look at the policing ordinance and assess how this power is impacted, for item 9. It might not be take action, it might just be give recommendation on private roads. That was the only thing I had on this page. Anybody else with anything?
On number 9, also I felt it should say C Article 7.
Okay, C.
Should reference the back and forth.
So C, what order, which?
Article 7, I only wrote that, so it must, I have to find Article 7, it must pertain to it.
Article 7 in here.
Yeah.
What page is that on?
I'm gonna go back to the front.
67. Page 67. It's general provisions, road frontage, private roads.
Yeah, I.
So section 7.04, private roads.
There you go, you know, that one, put that to.
So section 7.04. So we need to look at the police ordinance and now obviously look at how that relates to section 7.4.
So, I'm gonna go generic about that.
Yeah.
I don't know every place in here, so that would be perfect. But if you got this there, it's probably missed in other places to reference back and forth, you know,
For,
for other articles and stuff.
oh,
If you're reading something that's so generic as this line,
right,
you should have what you have to reference that pertains to it,
yeah,
in my opinion.
I got
It has it in some places.
right,
Must be in compliance with Article 12, let's say in one place, you know.
right. Okay, yeah, I mean, we can definitely look into that. I mean, that one specifically though, it is also, like I said, there is that general policing ordinance in the way that it's written, that this part might,
Well, right,
might be
right,
completely
right,
taken out, right? Anything else on page 4? That was the only thing I had was that private road. Alright, page 5. Responsibilities of the clerk. A, 1, 2, and 4, ones that I had questions on. So currently, the zoning administrator is the one that does these things. So accepts all applications for zoning permits, zoning requests, site plans, and similar applications, receives requests for rezonings from property owners and to address zoning ordinance amendments, and handles all posts and mails all notices. According to this, the clerk should be doing that. Right now, historically, we've had the zoning administrator and now the marijuana coordinator do that stuff. So,
I actually questioned all 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because I thought.
well, I think I understand the receives protest petitions.
Well, I'm not arguing, I'm just saying I thought these were all things that were somebody else's in there in our ordinances.
Right. And, yeah, handles
So
any posits for performance guarantees, yeah. I mean, I specifically noticed 1, 2, and 4. 3, we hardly ever, I don't think we hardly ever hit protests at the petitions.
No, but every time you hold a public hearing, it's said it ends and whatever.
Right. Well, that comes,
There had been a few during, certain elections, and America was one of them.
yeah. But right now, that is defined as the responsibility of the clerk. So we have to get clarity as to how did it switch to the zoning administrator, and when did it switch, and should the clerk be doing it? And is there a legal reason why the clerk should be doing it? I mean, I think I know why the clerk should be doing it, because the clerk is supposed to be the person of record, and this is all required record retention type stuff. So, I am pretty positive that's why it's defined as the clerk's responsibility. But we need clarity on that, because we allow, so is it just a matter of, we have a policy that allows that those powers to be delegated by the clerk to the zoning administrator? That I didn't know. You get what I'm saying? And then the other thing I had was, for public hearings and notices, 2B, it says notice of hearing shall be published on township website. I want to know if we can include, like basically any electronic, system like that. So can that include Facebook as a place of posting? I think the minimum is the publish in newspaper, general circulation, and a post of it here at the township. I think Alex just added the notice of hearings shall be published on the township website as that's kind of the way things are going now.
I think I heard it's required if you have one.
If we had one,
Yeah.
well then that's.
But that doesn't, you can always do more, it's always been said that way.
Right,
You have to put it in a paper that's a,
general
whatever,
circulation.
general, but you can also put it in a shop.
Right.
You don't have to.
Well, you can't use the shop, you can't use the shop.
Also use the
Yeah.
You can't use it, you're required.
But, you gotta get clarity on that. If it is now, if we have a website, it has to be posted, then we need to make sure that gets, gets noted and gets done. That was the only things I had on page 5.
I
Anybody
got
else?
something on this one, if you give me just a second.
Yep.
I wrote a note, what about near a city or other township, and I don't know why I wrote it, I'm looking at number 2, I think, section 2.072. I wrote it
Property,
next to it,
who are within 300 feet of the properties.
yeah, do we also then have to cross boundaries or not? That's why I was asking it, here you go.
That's a good question. I do not know. I would think so, the way that it's worded, is if they're within 300 feet, they're within 300 feet. But that is a good question.
I did.
At this point, you do,
I have, for when,
so,
oh, jeez. Mike's,
the corner store? Yeah, the
yeah,
market.
the market was across the street, that's a different township.
Need to notify it.
But, stuff is 300, so I just sent it anyway.
so how do you find the names and addresses? Using the same, tax thing, even though it's not our township?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can.
I didn't know you had access to it.
Yeah,
I
the
thought
whole,
it was only our.
no, the whole county, actually.
Gotcha.
I mean, it would be nice to have that clarity in there.
Yeah, and if we want to include it, even if it's not required, then we should.
Yep. Anybody else with anything on page 5? If not, then on page 6, item 3, notice shall be given not less than 15 days, so bullet points A through E. I just have a note that need to verify that we do this today. So describe the nature, so in the notice being sent, are we describing the nature of the request, indicating the property that is the subject of the request, state when and where the request will be considered, indicate when and where written comments will be received, concerning the request and indicate where a copy of the application can be reviewed. Are we doing that in the form letters today? When you send out a notice?
I'm sorry, I was
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah, so like when you send out a notice for a public
Right.
hearing to the 300 feet,
Yes.
are you describing the nature of the request in the letter?
Yes.
Okay. And you're indicating the property that is the subject of the request?
Yes.
And you're stating when and where the request will be considered? So the town
Yes.
hall, yep, okay. Indicating when and where written comments will be received concerning the request?
Yes.
And indicating where a copy of the application can be reviewed, if it's reviewable?
That is, I don't have anything in there about that.
Okay, so that is a new thing that would potentially need to be done. Is just add where a copy can be reviewed, if it's reviewable. I don't think the marijuana ones are reviewable by the public. So we do, it sounds like most all of it, other than this one line item, is done today. So just something to be aware of. I don't think there's any reason not to have it in there. I think it probably makes sense to have it in there. Not that I think anybody's actually gonna come up and review it, but it'll be here. Yeah. That was the only thing that I had on page 6. Anybody else with anything on page 6?
Got a few,
Okay.
I don't know always why, but I gotta look at it because the notes are old. For any, number 4, the question mark, I don't know why. For any group or adjacent properties numbering 11 or more that is proposed for rezoning the requirements of section 2.07, send notice to properties within 300 feet of and the requirement of section 207 to list all street addresses do not apply to that group of adjacent properties. I guess I just didn't understand that.
Any group of adjacent property.
That's my question.
Those for these requirements, section 2. That's 2.07. Oh, that's all there is. Send notice to properties within 300 feet and the requirement of section 2.07 list all. We just did that.
I guess the way I'm interpreting is if 11 neighbors all want to rezone, you don't have to send the 300-foot people around to the 11. I don't understand. I don't understand.
That one might need clarity. Because the other way that I can interpret it is if somebody owns all 11 properties that are adjacent to it, like you wouldn't be send it to every single street address. It doesn't make sense that you wouldn't send it to everybody. If there's, that one.
It's saying that 11 or more are proposed for rezoning, though. It's not talking about the 11 neighbors at all, or 11 properties or one person. It's very confusing, that paragraph.
Or more that is proposed for rezoning. Oh, I wonder if, okay, I think I might understand it now. If it's a group of 11 or more properties being rezoned all at the same time, basically you're not having to send notice. You're basically not having to send notice to all of those. Like, so for property 1, you're not having to send it to all 11. You're not having to set up a separate meeting notice or notice to those for those other 10 and vice versa. Like, so then like 10, you wouldn't have to send it for the other, other 10.
You would go 300 feet from
that
11.
11. Yeah.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but it's really.
I think that's what it
That's
is.
what it means.
Yeah.
I get what you're thinking.
Yeah. And then, alright, so we need clarity on that.
I also then question A under 2.08, if only shall apply for issuance of a zoning permit except as provided or elsewhere in this section unless issued by the zoning administrator and or the marijuana coordinator's authorized designee, whereupon the applicant may apply for the permits required by the Vassar Township Building Code. A zoning permit shall remain valid for 12 months from the date of issuance. I'm not arguing the 12 months thing, that's plain English, but the rest of that paragraph doesn't seem like plain English.
Shall apply for issuance. Well, what the requirements for issuing are, which is 1, 2, and 3. Permits not to be issued, no building permit shall be issued for the erection, alteration, or use of any building or structure they're part of, or for the use of any land which is not in accordance with all provisions of the zoning ordinance. Permits for new use of land, no land heretofore vacant shall hereafter be used, or an existing use of land be hereafter changed to a new or different use unless a zoning permit is first obtained. Like, it's just telling you that here's the people that are responsible. At least that's the way I interpret it. These are the people that are responsible. The permit is good for 12 months, and then here's the criteria that you're using to define whether a permit is issued, is not issued, and what type of permit. The type of change determines additional steps for the permit issuance. This is the way I interpret it.
If everybody else understands it, I'll leave it alone. It just seems a little wishy-washy to get through.
I mean, we can get more clarity on it, but that's the way,
It's like
that's just the way I interpret
For
it.
some reason, I don't question number 1, but number 2 and number 3, I have the same, I don't understand. But if nobody else has a question about it, I'll move on. Because that's just my interpretation there. I don't know. I don't have a specific thing about it.
Nobody's speaking up, we're moving along. Page 7, I had nothing. Anybody else have anything on page 7?
I do not.
I just got some questions. I have to look to see what they do.
Did right in the margins?
I wrote a question mark. That didn't write what it meant.
Which one specifically?
5A.
5A.
I do have it underlined under classification.
Any change of a non-conforming use of building for purposes of the ordinance, the term change in use means when the use changes from one classification listed in the table of use to another.
So I just simply put a little line next to number 5, paragraph in the B, but I didn't underline it. So I wonder if maybe something there makes me question A. You know what I mean?
The issuance of a zoning permit signifies compliance with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The zoning permit must be obtained from the zoning administrator before any building permit is issued for any activity described in the preceding subsections, section 2.08A6A through D. In addition, the zoning permit is required prior to the following activities taking place. So if it's a non-conforming use, so if it was like, for example, and I think it was a conforming use, but the bait shop, if it was a non-conforming use and they wanted to change it to just,
Another non-conforming.
well, no, change it, any change of a non-conforming use or building. So if it was non-conforming, like, so the bait shop existed, right, and it was non-conforming because it was non-commercial, but there was a commercial activity happening there. They wanted to now use it as a single-family home, right? That'd be a change in use according to the use table. You would have to, make sure that it's in compliance with the zoning ordinance at that point. If that non-conforming change, if you're changing it to a different use, that would make it conforming. It's not just into another non-conforming use.
Okay. I'll revisit that one later if I have questions. Move on.
Okay, any questions on page 7 besides that one? If not, then on page 8, I had certificate of zoning compliance, item 12. I don't know if we have this today, but a property owner or individual with an interest in a parcel, such as a mortgage company or title company, may request a certificate identifying the extent to which a parcel is compliant with zoning regulations. The zoning administrator or marijuana coordinator shall issue such a certificate based on existing zoning records following payment of a fee established by the township board. Do we have?
We don't have that, but there's some real
will be in, it's currently in the zoning ordinance that we would have that, so we would need to establish that. And like,
Yeah.
is there any, I don't see any problem with doing something like that, right?
No.
I mean, it's already being asked for, so there's a need for
Yeah, I
it.
mean, and you know, you get realtors that call and say, you know, hey, is it, you know, is it compliant and blah, blah.
Yeah, is the use matching the zoning?
Yeah, yeah, all that stuff, you know, so.
So,
Is there any violations, or, you know?
right,
things,
and
you know,
just blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was the only thing, like, it wasn't so much a change that needed to be made, it was just like, hey, we need to make note that we need to make this certification, if it doesn't exist today. And then, issue zoning, so, certification of occupancy. Issue zoning permits and certificates of occupancy shall be administered by the zoning administrator and or marijuana coordinator. My note on that is, we need to determine if, certificate of occupancies need codes and, the fire marshal approval, because certain things, you need fire marshal approval to even, to get an occupancy, right? Like commercial buildings, you need a
Yeah.
fire marshal.
Yeah.
But do we today issue certificates of occupancy? I don't think we do, I think that comes from codes and that, right? Like
Yeah.
codes and that, or the health department, whoever would be the ones that would be issuing that.
I think it's the, it wouldn't be the assessor, I don't think.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be marijuana over.
No, it would be the.
Well, but I think that is more for actual marijuana, that doesn't make sense, because it's more of a commercial operation, that should be like the fire marshal, the state, all that, they should be the ones issuing that.
And they do.
Right.
I will say, it needs clarification, because what it probably means is for the use. In other words, they've met the requirements of the use of the property.
Certificate of occupancy based on the use.
It's probably got nothing to do with the structure.
Right.
Building codes gives you, you know, that's why I question that.
So this one, clarity, if intent is COO for zoning ordinance compliance.
Then we would have to then come up with a form or something.
Right.
Those two departments do.
Right. Okay, and that was the only other thing I got on page 8.
Anybody else? Section 11, planning commission may impose such conditions, limitations, and granting approval. And they be permitted by the state law for zoning. We have, doesn't that the trustees when it comes to doing approvals and on conditions? We can't impose no limitations on this board.
We can, and that's where it's defined later. So conditions imposed shall do the following: be designed to protect natural resources, the health, safety, and welfare, as well as the social and economic well-being of those who will use the land, or who will use the land use or activity under consideration, be related to the valid exercise of the police powers and purposes which are affected by the proposed use or activity, be necessary to meet the intent and purpose of the zoning regulations. So that's what that is defining.
Right now, we got like the special land permits for,
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Right.
Yeah. That's a question that needs more. Then that's where it comes back to, that's why I'm saying, that's why it's pointed to this. It's all like the way this is written, we have all the authority to do that. So, that's why it's surprising that the code would say we don't have that.
Well, I found it somewhere and now I don't find it here. So, keep going.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I mean, that's is literally, it's just telling you, like, these are the guidelines you're gonna follow to be able to make these limitations. And I think he was talking, like, if I remember correctly, Alex was talking about the situations where it's all like, okay, you wanna put in this commercial activity, but you can't meet the parking requirements. So if the person says, yeah, basically I'm only gonna use this amount of property, blah, 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 okay, yeah, you can do this, but the condition is you can't go beyond this scope of whatever you're doing. I think is part of what this is referring to. So any other questions on page 8? If not, page 9, I had nothing.
Under section 2.12, number 2,
Yep,
we don't have the township clerk do this usually, it's the treasurer, correct? Performance guarantee shall
register with the township clerk and be deposited with the township treasurer.
yeah, but read down even further, the township clerk shall deposit performance guarantee.
Well, I mean,
Now, the treasurer usually deposits all the banking.
well, then, okay, so then.
Matter of fact, I don't think that she, Kim.
I don't think she touches.
Well,
it.
but it
She
should,
would have the paperwork probably.
right, it should be registered with her,
Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
so.
It's where it talks about the positive part.
Maybe-
I don't know, if she has that authority and that's what she does already, then fine, but if not, then it needs to be possible to verify.
Yeah.
If we're doing it wrong, we need to be,
Right.
know that, knowing that. That's not the way we do it now, I don't.
Right. Anything else there then, nine? What's that?
That's all I have.
Page 10, the only note that I had, reporting of violations, so, 213A1, reporting of violations, the planning department. This is the first place where it's mentioned, it's like, we may need to establish a department or ask attorney if this should be local law enforcement, zoning administrator, marijuana coordinator. Or is it just simply just saying like, yeah, those things exist under the planning department, and we've now established a planning department.
My question is the same thing, the planning department didn't make sense, should it be the zoning administrator and the law enforcement or something?
Yeah. And it could just be,
Or is it, we have to do something different?
right, and it could just be a matter of, well, actually, I didn't go back to the definitions. Let me go back to the definitions, maybe planning department is defined.
Oh,
Planning commission, no, just planning commission, not planning department. So it may very well be that we just have to call that group of people the planning department.
This kind of answers what we were talking about earlier, about registered letter being sent to them. It's not just 10 days, it's 10 working days of receipt.
Inspection violation, planning department, building official, or ordinance enforcement officer as appropriate shall inspect each alleged violation of this zoning ordinance within 10 working days of receipt of a complaint, not the actual violation, that's gotta be somewhere deeper in. But that's if Troy received a complaint, he should have reviewed it within 10 working days, is what that is saying. I mean, do you think it should be less? I mean, I think 10 working days makes sense, that's 2 weeks, basically.
I think that's just typical.
Yeah. All right, anything else on page 10? If not, then page 11.
page 11, maybe we can wrap up, because it's getting late.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
That's finishes article 2, though.
Yeah. Alright, so the only thing I had on here was line D. Planning department, building official may refuse to issue new zoning permits to a person who has failed to correct violations, or any person representing a firm which has failed to correct violations of the zoning ordinance. A zoning may also be withheld if violations are identified on site upon application. I believe it's just missing the word permit after zoning, so it should be a zoning permit may also be withheld.
On the last sentence there?
Yeah, I think, a zoning permit may also be withheld if violations are identified on site upon application.
That makes more sense that
Yeah.
way.
I think it's just missing the word permit. That was all I had in there.
The only my question is the same thing we talked about on the other ordinance, violations, we talk in here, number 1 about municipal civil infractions, and I just need to know if that's the current way we're still doing it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Still.
So we'll start next time at Article 3.
Yep. That's where we'll start next time. Alright, so next thing on the agenda is discussion on requesting a new parcel map. So administrative assistant sent an email about this, so I just need clarity. I filled out the detailed capital expense because we'll need set it off to the board trustees. I think you said like $50 in there, and that was just to print it, or whatever, how much it was.
Yeah.
So is there a fee associated with them developing it, like additional to that? Okay. Is it possible to ask them, since it's the echo chamber in here, is it possible to ask him to print it on like a canvas that we can mount it to a frame and put rock wool behind it and make a sound dampening thing out of the map so it has serves multiple purposes?
We could, but the board of trustees is looking into getting this hall and that hall echo proof or something like that. So that might not be,
I mean, it can't hurt to also see if that is a possibility, because I mean, I think if we can make it also serve a functional purpose, that will help a little bit.
they wouldn't give us the frame, they would just give us the print.
Right, yeah, but basically we need to see if he can print it on, like, a piece of fabric, because it need to be on a piece of fabric to be able to put it on a frame with the rock wool behind it, otherwise it's just a piece of paper, it's not gonna do what it needs to do.
Okay.
If we wanted to use it as a visual structural piece of sound editing, I don't know what the cost would be associated with that, if he's able to do it. Otherwise, if we're for sure that's just $50, like, and he said it includes roads, he include waterways, all
Whatever
that.
you guys want.
Okay.
So that's why I was bringing it here, if you guys want it, the works. Or, that's for like that huge one that like we have over there. So I'm asking him for a plat map book as well, with updated 2025 parcels.
So, we can get it on
We'll
a
get it on
disk or something?
PDF as well.
Okay, because, now, Nick Cooper was saying, we could print them down there.
Well, I mean, it's $50 to get it.
Yeah.
However we get it.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I
just
mean-
needed to know if we wanted
Yeah.
parcels, sections, riverways.
I mean, so I think, what, the old one has parcels and section numbers, right? And then major roads.
Yes.
I don't think it had waterways. Yeah. So when he says waterways, is he talking like county drains and all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think,
That would be good to have.
I think we should just do it all.
yeah, I mean, I think we should go for the works, right? Like,
In the past, we had a version that had layers though.
well, that would
I don't
be,
know if it would have been that bad, no.
right, I think that was current land use and
Yeah, yeah.
future land use.
No, there was a land division one too though.
Okay.
It had a clear layer over it, I recall. Out in another house somewhere.
Right.
But anyway, if we get too much detail on this one, it could be awful hard to read some of it, so.
Well, then maybe that's where we get the extra layer then, or we have two made up, one that has the
This option. is-
waterways and roads.
One has parcels and
Well, parcels outlined, but not the parcel numbers on it, but the other one is more plain, with just parcel numbers outlined in the main roads that we had, so maybe it's two versions. That might actually make more sense.
the parcel numbers are all big, we got to have a big map.
Well, I think that's where they had the section numbers, because then some of those parcel numbers, there's part of it that is universal across every parcel, right? Like it starts with a certain set of numbers to define that it's in fact your township, right? And then it's like 4 digits and then a dash, there's a couple other digits that after the section number, right?
2600.
Yeah, 0 dash.
So it only has like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have the first 6 numbers, so it'll have
2600,
the
right?
section number and then the, whatever that last 2
case scenario, if we want a different version, we pay another $50 later. I mean,
Well,
we-
if he puts it in a
now, it's the
PDF,
same price, right?
if he puts it in a PDF and designs the PDF right, if he layers the pieces on there, you can turn it on, you can turn layers on and off.
Oh,
For
maybe
print.
you can do that on the PDF version, right?
Right,
On the printed version, put it all on it, and then we'll go from there.
right. See if it's too illegible, yeah, that word. If you can't read it.
It's too busy.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to have, equalization. Actually, hold on, let me rephrase that. Because ultimately the board has to approve the expense.
So if you recommend.
Yeah, so I'm making a motion to recommend approval of purchase of an updated parcel map from equalization, for, you said it was $50, right?
Approximately.
So should we just round it up to 100 then, just to cover, so, for 100, for a max spend of 100, yeah, for a max spend of $100. Do I have a second?
Second.
So Bob seconds, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. I think you have a Word version of this. You just want to fill it out and send it to the supervisor with the motion. All right, public comment?
I think if we're gonna go back over zoning stuff, we should maybe consider doing special meetings again, because 2.5-hour meetings are going on 3 hours sometimes, if we're gonna go back over this.
I mean, we can.
Just a suggestion. Just a suggestion.
Have special meetings to go over this, the zoning ordinance. All right, well, we'll have that discussion at the next meeting then, of whether we want to do that or not, we can figure that out, how we want to handle that. I mean, we're gonna have to set up a special meeting anyway for the public hearing, once we finally get it to the point where we're good with it. But any other public comment? Yeah.
Did we hear it back from Earl yet?
Who we got? Have you talked to anybody?
I have a name, I have heard back from.
But you don't know, they don't even know if they're familiar with it or not.
I haven't heard back from them yet. I will reach out to them again. I have time tomorrow before Mr. Forbes' funeral.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned at 9.